friends in My Hero Academia are. For example, Izuku and Bakugo are best friends. Though yeah, these guys' relationship is pretty complicated. I mean, Deku and Bakugo were actually super close friends when they were kids. But then one day, Bakugo went from being Deku's friend to becoming his ultimate childhood bully who made his life miserable for years. Yeah, even all through middle school, Bakugo was always trash-talking him and even beating him up. Even after Izuku risked his life to save him from the sludge villain, Bakugo still couldn't stand him. And when Izuku then somehow got into UA and started getting way stronger, Bakugo got furious. But then everything changed after they had their intense fight. We find out that Bakugo felt like Izuku always looked down on him, and that Bakugo basically hated Izuku all his life because of his own insecurities of being weak. From that point on, though, Bakugo stopped seeing Deku as someone beneath him and started seeing him as his true rival. Like, this guy even threw himself in front of Shigaraki to save Deku's life, which almost cost him his own. Then, after Deku left UA to fight on his own, Bakugo and everyone from Class 1A chased him down to bring him back. And that's when Bakugo apologizes for everything he's done, admits he was jealous and insecure, and finally calls him Izuku instead of Deku. And that's when they once again become friends, which we clearly see during the final war as Bakugo gives absolutely everything to help Deku win. Like, even after basically dying, he comes back just to fight by his side. And I mean, if they can just look at each other and know exactly what both want to do, then they're obviously best friends. Plus, after the war, Bakugo literally cries when he hears that Izuku's quirkless again, because not being able to compete with him ever again made him so sad. But when he hears that he's still got embers inside of him, they just smile at each other. So yeah, I told you it was complicated, but they are now literal brothers. And even 8 years later, they're still hanging out and still competing for that #1 hero spot. Now sure, Todoroki is also really close with both of them, and Kirishima is probably Bakugo's closest friend outside of Deku. Like how he was the first in class to break through Bakugo's tough exterior, and how Kirishima was the one who held out his hand to rescue Bakugo during the hideout raid because they saw each other as equals. That said, these two are the best of friends, since they've been through everything together, and Deku is the only one Bakugo always drops his toughness act with. But moving on, let's talk about Denki, Kaminari, and Mineta. And these guys became super close friends because of their obsession of girls. Yeah, these two were always hanging out and loved coming up with ridiculous schemes and pranking the girls. Like how they tricked the girls into wearing cheerleading outfits during the sports festival. They seriously even tricked Deku to help ask Aizawa if they could use the school pool during summer just to see the girls in swimsuits. Now to be fair, Kaminari isn't close to as bad as Mineta. I mean, this guy is just the worst. Still, they are really close friends, and if there's a hot girl around, you can expect to find both Kaminari and Mineta right by her side. Talking about the girls, let's talk about Uraraka and Asui. These two are always hanging out together and always looking out for each other. Like whenever one of them's in trouble, the other is right there, which we clearly saw during the forest training camp where they fought to protect each other against Toga. And then in the final war fights, they are once again fighting side by side against Toga and giving absolutely everything to keep each other safe. Tsuyu even cries when she realizes Uraraka made it out alive. But they don't just protect each other physically. Whenever they are down or feeling bad, they are always there to hug and lift each other up. And the best part, they're still best friends 8 years later, always hanging out together, and Asui even helps and assists Uraraka with her quirk counseling, since they're still best friends and try to spend as much time together as possible. And that was the beginning of an incredible friendship. From then on, they were basically inseparable, as they always had each other's backs and pushed one another to become stronger. Even when Mirio couldn't control his permeation quirk and Tamaki struggled with Manifest, Mirio never stopped believing in him. Like he kept telling Tamaki that one day he would shine like the sun. Then after middle school, they both made it into UA, where they became close friends with Neijiro Hado. And thanks to their ridiculous strength, the three of them became known as the Big Three at UA. By their third year, both Mirio and Tamaki had mastered their quirks, and Tamaki even chose the hero name Sun Eater, inspired by Mirio's words that he would one day outshine the sun. So yeah, these two are definitely best friends for life. Next up, let's talk about the villains Himiko, Toga, and Twice. Now, you probably didn't think this absolute psychopath could even have a best friend. I mean, you'd expect Toga to stab you in the back the second she gets bored, right? But nope! Toga and Twice became the bestest of friends. Now, these two were both completely broken, as Twice was fighting his own trauma and identity crisis, while Toga spent her whole life being treated like a complete psycho. But after joining the League of Villains, they finally found someone who actually understood them, and they instantly became best friends. Like whenever Twice's mask starts to rip, which makes him totally lose his mind, Toga is always there to keep him calm. And when Toga almost died during the Meta Liberation Army fight, Twice seriously overcame his trauma, unlocked his true power, and created an entire army of clones just to save her. Then, when Twice was about to die, Toga was the one he hugged one last time while melting away, with Toga thanking him for saving her life. So yeah, this friendship was tragic, but Toga and Twice truly loved each other. Now let's get back to the heroes and talk about Shota Aizawa and present Mike. These guys both went to UA, and even though Mike was this loud and energetic guy, while Aizawa was the quiet brooding kid, they still became best friends. And together with Oboro Shirakumo, they became known as the Three Dumbagos of Class A. As their time on UA went on, these three became completely inseparable, and even planned to open their own hero agency together after graduating. But their plan shattered when Oboro was tragically killed by a villain during their work study, and after Oboro's death, Aizawa isolated himself, started training way harder, barely spoke to anyone, and became super cold. But through all of it, Mike never gave up on him. He was always there to support him and try to cheer him up, and they were still best friends. Sure, they've now gone from goofy high school friends to pro heroes and teachers, and they don't hang out as much anymore, but their bond is still unbreakable. Next up, All Might and Tsukauchi. These two go way back, as one day Tsukauchi, who was a cop, met with Toshinori Yagi, who was said to be the hero All Might's contact person. But while having a conversation in a cafe, Toshinori kept making excuses and running off to go save people as All Might. But yeah, he accidentally came back with part of his hero costume still showing, instantly exposing his secret identity. Instead of freaking out, Tsukauchi called him out for never filing his hero reports, and he made All Might a deal. You go save people, I'll handle the paperwork. And just like that, an incredible friendship was born. Since then, he became one of the only people All Might completely trusts. He knows about All Might's injuries, keeps his biggest secrets, and is the first person All Might turns to when something serious happens. Sure, we don't see a lot of them together, but we can clearly see how much they care about each other when Tsukauchi is literally praying for someone to save All Might when All for One is about to take him out. So again, we don't see a lot of them together, but still, they are definitely best friends. Moving on, let's go back to the villains, and this time we've got Shigaraki and Spinner. They first met when Spinner joined the League of Villains, but they did not get along at all. Spinner was a die-hard follower of Hero Killer Stain's ideology, and he felt like Shigaraki was just a whiny kid causing chaos for no reason. But their relationship slowly started to change, as Spinner, a heteromorph lizard man, had spent his whole life being discriminated against and just hid in his room playing video games. Then he realized Shigaraki wasn't a monster. He was also a broken kid who loved video games and understood exactly what it felt like to be completely lonely and rejected by society. And that's when Spinner truly started following him, and they started to actually become really close. Yeah, Shigaraki actually had fun talking about video games and stuff with Spinner, and they became best friends. So in Shigaraki's final moments, he told Deku to tell Spinner that he fought for destruction until the very end. And those words meant everything to Spinner, who decided to write a book about Shigaraki's legacy, which he finally published 8 years later, making sure the world would never forget his best friend. Staying with the villains, we've got the worst best friends of them All for One and Dr. Garaki. Yeah, I bet you didn't think All for One could have any friends, right? I mean, this monster wants to destroy the world. But still, Garaki is always by his side. These two met over 100 years ago, back when quirks were still something completely new in the world. And at the time, Garaki was at the absolute lowest point in his life, as everyone laughed at him and treated him like a crazy person because of his quirk singularity theory. He predicted that quirks would eventually become too powerful for human bodies to handle. But while everyone else rejected him, All for One believed him and gave Garaki everything he needed. He was so grateful that he pledged his complete loyalty to All for One, and from that moment on, the two became this dark duo, with Garaki using his geniusness to help All for One build his empire, and he's also his personal doctor and keeps him alive. All for One has even thanked Garaki from the bottom of his heart, calling him his friend and saying that Garaki's endless curiosity has always been the source of his own strength. Yeah, for two of the biggest villains in the series, that's about as close to a best friend as you're ever gonna get. Going back to the heroes, let's talk about Tenya and Tensei Ida. I know, they're brothers, but brothers can absolutely close their whole life, with Tenya looking up to Tensei as his hero and biggest idol, and the whole reason he joined UA was to follow in his brother's footsteps. But when he heard that Tensei had been seriously injured by Stain, he didn't care about medals or the sports festival anymore. He dropped everything and ran straight to the hospital. And later, he even tried to hunt down Stain himself to avenge his brother. And Tensei, he thinks his brother is brilliant. He even apologized for not living up to the image Tenya had of him after losing his ability to be a hero. But as Tensei recovered, he became Tenya's biggest supporter, and Tenya proudly inherited the Ingenium name. Then, 8 years after the final war, the brothers actually become heroes together, with Tensei returning to hero work and working under Tenya. So now they're spending every single day catching villains and even running through parks to help lost kids. If that's not best friend material, I don't know what is. Moving on to the most manly friendship in the series, we've got Kirishima and Tetsu. But funnily enough, they actually couldn't stand each other at first. Why? Because everyone kept comparing them. Yeah, Kirishima hardens his body into rock, while Tetsu turns his body into steel, so people acted like they were basically the same guy. And they hated that. Then came the sports festival, where they finally got to settle who was the best. Or, well, not really. Nah, they just kept throwing identical full-power punches at each other until they both got knocked out at the exact same time. So naturally, they settled it the only manly way possible, an arm wrestling match. Kirishima actually won, congratulated Tetsu on an awesome fight, and just like that, their rivalry turned into a friendship. Tetsu even started cheering for Kirishima to beat Bakugo in the next round. And ever since then, these two have been the ultimate bro duo, always hyping each other up, helping each other improve, and sharing this unshakable brotherhood bond. Next up, let's talk about Shoji and Koda. Now, both started off as background characters in Class 1A, but because they were both mutant quirk users, they naturally became really close. Their friendship then reached a whole new level when Shoji finally revealed his past, showed the scars on his face, and opened up about the brutal discrimination he suffered just because of how he looked. The entire class supported him, but it hit Koda harder than anyone, as he knew how painful that burden was. Then came the final war, and when they heard mutant quirk users would fight at Central Hospital, Shoji and Koda jumped into battle together. Shoji protected Koda from Spinner's attack, and they got separated. But when Koda heard the mob calling Shoji a traitor, he completely snaps. Yeah, he awakens his quirk, with horns growing from his head while he shouted for everyone to leave his best friend alone. After winning the fight, Shoji became the face of change for mutant quirk users, leading the fight against discrimination and even winning the Imamura Peace Prize. And Koda? He never left Shoji's side. He doesn't care about being in the spotlight. He's just proud to support Shoji, proud of everything he's achieved, and proud to call him his best friend. Just like how Momo and Jiro are best friends. These two first became close during the terrifying USJ attack, where they fought the League of Villains side by side. After that, they were basically inseparable. Like Momo became Jiro's tutor, her best friend, and her shopping buddy, as whenever they get free time, they always hang out with each other. But what really makes them best friends is how much they have each other's backs. Yeah, Jiro has zero tolerance for anyone disrespecting Momo. Like when Sero made a dumb joke about Momo's quirk, Jiro punched him for it. And Momo, she's always there to boost Jiro's confidence. Like she told Jiro how beautiful she was when she was too shy to show off her dress, and she even joined Jiro's band during the school festival just to support her. So yeah, these two are always together, cheering each other on and looking out for one another. Now, the last besties we gotta talk about is Yuga Aoyama and Toru Hagakure. At first, you'd probably think Hagakure's best friend is one of the girls, right? She's always super bubbly, loves to gossip, and is constantly hanging out with them. But nope! It's actually Aoyama. Now sure, they basically never talked during their time in Class 1A, as they were just normal classmates. But we then see how much she actually cares about him when we find out he's the UA traitor. After Toru overheard Yuga talking to his parents, she was shocked and couldn't believe that one of her friends had been secretly feeding information to All for One the entire time. Then when Yuga and his family tries to escape, he fires his naval laser in self-defense, but Toru jumps in and reflects the laser beam away with her body while screaming at him for betraying the class. The light from Yuga's laser even reveals part of her face, and we see how heartbroken she is, crying over her friend's betrayal. She was seriously still crying during Yuga's interrogation. But then came the final war, where Aoyama betrayed All for One and helped the heroes. And here, he's struggling in his fight against the terrifying villain Kunieda. And that's when Hagakure swoops in to save his life, forgives him, and even calls him a hero, while using her own body to bend and redirect his laser attacks to defeat the villain. Yeah, we saw how insanely powerful this duo could be. The problem was that Toru became visible, so Aoyama quickly gives her his jacket to cover up, showing her nothing but respect. Then 8 years later, they both became pro-heroes, with Yuga proudly working as Toru's sidekick, as they became best friends, proving their bond was truly unbreakable. Does your best friend love My Hero Academia? Let me know in the comments below.